Hello, welcome one and all. This is, of course, your good old friend Tom the Chosen One, and this is the second episode of the TomCast, a Tom the Chosen One supplemental podcast. I am joined once again by my two wonderful co-hosts, Mike, aka Beaver PI, and of course, my good friend Andrew as well. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, not bad.
Andrew, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm glad to be back in recording, so I can't wait to see what we talk about.
Yeah, this is going to be... It's nice to get back to the recording booth, aka my kitchen once again, to do these sort of things. I will say, thank you everyone that listened to the first part of our TomCast, the first episode. I got way more engagement I got out of that than I expected. To be very, I guess, transparent, I expected to have maybe, if I was like, if maybe even just 10% of my regular viewers watch this, I'd be happy. And so that'd be like about 50, or just right under 100. So having about 20% of my normal viewership watch this, and not all of them watch them all the way through, and that's fine, because the last one was 3 hours long.
A lot to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. We had a lot to talk about, but it's nice that it got that sort of engagement. And so for all of you that are returning customers, I'm going to scam you again and waste your time. Also, thank you so much. But apart from that, the general salutations. Everybody's having a good Saturday, I take it?
Yeah, I'm a little tired.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I'm gonna be real. Mike, we've been trying to fix him the last maybe hour or so to get him in here because he's had some hangover, which is fine. It's fine. We've all been there.
This is my first hangover in probably a year and a half, 2 years.
That's okay.
I'm currently coping with a homemade frittata.
Ooh,
that's not too bad. We could all have some of that.
Well, not you guys.
And then
it's all mine.
Andrew here is in a similar circumstance where he's having brunch. And to the audience out there, the running joke within us is that if Andrew says that he's eating, if he's having dinner, or he's having brunch, or he's having whatever the hell he wants, you gotta add like 5 hours to that. You gotta add 5 hours to whatever you're doing for him to want to join in. And so, Andrew, I'll allow you to defend yourself.
I mean, there isn't really much I can say to defend myself, really, and excuse that behavior, other than I just tend to get distracted easily by whatever it is that my dad or my brother end up watching at the table. So that's typically why.
You gotta have a good meal.
That's right.
And to overblow these two schmoes, which is very easy to do because of the time difference, I can say something like today. I went to Trent up north in the north of Italy and had a great day and went and saw a bunch of sights in a museum and things like that. And these lazy sops have barely gotten out of bed, which is easy to say because it is currently almost 11 p.m. my time. And it's like just barely, almost 3 your guys' time?
Yeah.
just barely 3 p.m. You can't expect us to be awake at this hour. Come
That's
on.
right.
Yeah.
It's Saturday.
So I get to pull one on them. If we recorded earlier, it'd be even more funny. Because then it would just be like, you people haven't even done anything. And it's like, yeah, you just woke up and I've had a full day. But...
Yeah, do just an early morning session. Just Mike and I barely covering as we try and fumble our way through the recording.
I don't even think I'd be lucid if you had tried to call me this morning.
That'd be vile, actually. I don't think I'd do that.
Oh god, that'd be just torture.
I don't think I'd do that. That's like if you asked me to record your guys' time, like if you guys wanted to record at say 10 p.m. or something your time, that'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning my time, and it'd be like, no.
Oh my gosh.
It's like I'm gonna die. I don't want to do that.
No, that'd be horrendous.
Fine. to, I guess, continue, another part of our laundry list of items that you need to know is that lately, as of this recording, the last video that came out was the Dead Space impressions on my channel, which is a new sort of format, which basically I get to sit there and talk about the brand new games that I usually don't get to talk about and give out I guess my opinion on them. I would certainly hope that if you're listening to this, that you've watched that, because the engagement on that one is terrible right now. But don't you worry, I am not going to try and, what would be the word? Guilt you into watching my
Guilt
videos.
trip, very good, very good.
Guilt trip. It is a suggestion, a light suggestion made out of pity. That is not a guilt trip. Please do not take pity on me. Please take pity on me. Please watch my content. Please clap.
No, we gotta hit them with a reverse psychology. Do not take pity on Tom. Do not watch these
my
videos.
My
He's a
videos
strong,
are terrible.
independent man. He does not need this.
That's right.
Yeah, and then nobody watches it.
The videos are actually so awful, in fact, that you won't ever believe what you hear on them or see on them.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But that is basically the end of our salutations here. Since this is a normal video, it probably won't end up being 3 hours long. I certainly don't hope so, because while it wasn't bad to edit, it's a lot to edit. But anyways, as usual, we're going to be basically talking maybe a news topic, and then a topic that one of us brings in, and another news topic, and then another one that we bring in, and so on and so forth. I tend to try and pick the news topics for games that we will find interesting and do. So I apologize to the audience out there if there was a news story that within the realm of gaming or cinema that you found interesting that we didn't cover. I'm sorry, but sorry not sorry. This is my show. This is our show. Sorry, this is our show. But
well, maybe they can post it in the comments, and then we can explore it at a later episode.
And they can click that. They can click that bell, and they could subscribe.
That's right.
But yeah, if there is ever a topic that you want me or on us to talk about, yeah, go right ahead. And you know where I'm at. You know where you can find me. You know you have my GPS coordinates, so you could send a piece of mail or something more malicious to not just in the right way in terms of news topics. And I guess we should go to our first topic, which, what do I have here? Topic number 1. This one's suggested by Andrew, which I'm going to preface it with, the price of AAA games is too damn high. So, take it away, Andrew. What do you have for us?
Well, this thought came into my mind as I was sitting there panicking about what the heck we were going to talk about, and I was watching your video, your impressions video for Dead Space.
Great
Everyone
plug.
give that a watch if you
Great
can. Get the great flip, that's right. And you had mentioned how you wouldn't recommend people buying this game at full price, but if they had, say, that EA subscription service or Game Pass, that absolutely you would recommend it. And so it got me thinking, with AAA game prices rising consistently over the past decade or so, as I remember back when I first started getting into games, you know, being your kid you can't afford, you've got to wait like Christmas or birthdays so that your parents can get you one. But games started around $60 for us here in Canada, just about 50 American, then jumped up to 70, then 80, and now it's currently at like 90, 95 for a full-priced game. And I was thinking, even if that game is fantastic, say like God of War, for example, which won a bunch of rewards, you're realistically paying, if they're at full price, either $90 or $95 for a game that you may only play through once, kind of like a movie, but you're not paying $100 for a movie ticket. You pay maybe $10 and then $40 for the snacks, right?
Yeah.
And that experience isn't going to break the bank nearly as hard as a AAA title these days. So that's just kind of what got me thinking, like, is it even still worth buying games at full price, or should we just all kind of move on to these subscription-based services that I know that you and several other people I've talked with always give praise to? So yeah, that's just kind of where my thought process is at.
Yeah, very interesting.
That's interesting.
Because I don't think there's an easy answer to that.
No, of course not. That's why I thought this topic would be great.
Oh, exactly.
Damn it! You make good points. What was on top of the price though? Like when you say it was $60 before, like how far back can you go on? And you go back like 93, 90, like 90s to early 2000s, or we talking
early 2000s? I was not alive at 93.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to say maybe well into the mid 2000s, early 2010s. It was $60 for a full price game. And for the audience out there, this is $60 Canadian. So it would be roughly $50 American.
Well, okay, just like throwing it into Google, $60 in 2005 is worth $91.18 today. So
it does follow inflation, but still.
It scales with inflation, but I actually want to touch more. You're talking about the value of a game, and I 100% agree. Where like when Tom will come on his reviews and say, wait for this game to go down in value because its value of itself is not worth its price tag. And I think if we were to look less towards a subscription base, but more on what is the general value of this game? Is it a well-made game, or is it a game that's going to be day one patch, shit tons of bugs that are game breaking for the next 3 years?
Battlefield 2042, anyone?
Yeah.
That's just it. Like the value of these games when they come out is genuinely not worth it, and I think that leads a lot of people to kind of hold off. There's still a huge market for pre-orders. Don't get me wrong. Like it genuinely infuriates me how much people wish to pre-order. Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I've only ever pre-ordered one game in my life. That was GTA 5. That was it.
Oh wow!
And that was a huge disappointment.
Yeah. What I think about this, it's very much in the realm of it really depends on some games. Some games that are AAA and big, I do think are worth every penny. You take for instance, I think it came out for the $70 or like $60 American sort of thing was near Automata or near Replicant that Remake. Those games, even though, like, if you take, I think this is an arbitrary measure in my opinion, the $1 per hour sort of thing, like hour of gameplay, I think it's kind of an arbitrary measure, but if you take that out, I think the near games provide such an incredible experience that it doesn't matter what you paid. Honestly, to replay those games again, like from scratch, no memory. Like they take the little Men in Black meme gun and they erase my memory on it. I'd pay $160 to play that game all over again, as if it was brand new. And for some older titles, I'd probably pay even more. But it really is dependent, because there's a lot of games out there that the development costs of them are that high. But I hear this argument a lot of times that games take longer to develop, and it's like, yeah, but they really don't. In terms of how could you say, when it comes to engines and stuff like that, especially nowadays where everybody's switching to Unreal 5.
Unreal 5, yeah.
Game engines
the new hotness
are much easier to work on these days. They're like, you can do turnaround easy and fast. The things that take up time are stuff like art assets and things like that. And so it's when people say, oh no, games are more expensive because they're more expensive to make. No, they're bigger. The studios are bigger. There's more people working on them. They take longer to work on. And so, they need a return on investment, but a lot of times, less is more. The indie market, like not every indie is made the same. There are endless amounts of indie trash, so to speak, where it's just like, it's like your Bad Rats or like your meme game, but...
Don't say that about Bad Rats.
Talk shit about Bad Rats. Come on.
No, why...
You enjoy Bad Rats.
No, why would I play Bad Rats when I could play Hunt Down to Freeman?
No. Okay, no, you got us there. You got us there.
That?
I submit to your wisdom.
Yeah. But it's like if we take another wonderful great plug, we take my my top 10 games from last year. Most of those games were not AAA games at all. They were all like AA or indie game territory. My game of the year is Signalis, which is one of the best horror games and last almost 2 decades, I'd say. Like, genuinely one of the best horror games since the times of the horror golden age with PS1 and PS2 titles. Like, it's probably genuinely the best since then. That game was made by 2 Germans. That to me is incredible.
That is pretty impressive, actually.
Lots of other, they're small indie teams. My second game of my in the top 2, if you will, is offshoot team of Obsidian making a like German early Renaissance murder mystery game.
Oh, right, I still gotta get that.
Oh, Pentiment, yes. And it's like those games.
The art style looks so beautiful.
It's wonderful. That game is so good. It would have won Game of the Year, but sorry, buddy, Signalis came in.
No, that's fair. I know you and your horror games.
Yeah. But it's just that. It's when a AAA game does come out, and it is great, and it's like worth that $80 or whatever, $70 or $60 American, what have you. There's some games that I think are automatically, like, they're obviously worth that. Take, for example, like Persona 5. You'll make your money back just in hours alone you get out of it. You'll get under the like dollar per hour. You'll get probably like, it'll probably be like 80 cents per hour type of thing. If you go up to like 135 hours, and that's one playthrough. If you play it multiple times, then
that's fair. It'll
go over and over again. But yeah, I think in a time when the economy, it's not the autonomy yet. The economy's getting tighter. People aren't making as much. Inflation's getting nasty. Yeah, I think people are going to be looking towards these sorts of subscription services. I know I'm a huge shill for it, but I love Game Pass. I love Game Pass because it gives me an option to not have to pay for something that I don't know if I'm going to like. And Steam has a decent refund system, but it's not perfect. Sometimes you don't know until after 2 hours if the game really sucks.
See, I agree with you that subscription-based services are definitely going to be on the rise here shortly. Like it's like I've been telling my buddy that I stream with. Let me just quickly look into my library here because it's a decent example of I pay how much? $5, $15 a month for Game Pass.
It's like $11 a month. If you just pay normal. If you pay Ultimate, it's like 17, I think.
17. All right. I mean, I usually go to like G2A and I pick up a 89 cents.
Oh my god! I hear the police coming.
It's not illegal. It's just marketable. Anyway, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like 8 games in here. At least 5 of them are AAA. I've got other stuff like the Outer Worlds, Dishonored, Frostpunk. Like all of these games on their own on Steam are $20, $30, even when on sale. So the fact that I'm paying only a few bucks a month and I'm getting access to all of this is absolutely insane. However, it should be viewed more as supplementary, in my opinion. Like, you should absolutely have your own library of games saved for yourself, because from what I understand, these are on rotation. So when you're done with it and you take
the
it off
first party
your...
stuff isn't. I think the first party stuff is going to stay, which I think is a big reason why Microsoft wants to buy up all these studios. It's so they can have a rotation of first party stuff that won't go away. The only first party game I know that has gone away, and that's because of like some weird licensing thing, was We Happy Few. That's like leaving, or it already left, I think, in January, which I guess odd game. I never played it, but that's the only one, and everything after that is gonna stick around because they own it. They don't have to continue to pay licensing fees and things like that, but that could always change, right?
I was gonna say, well, that's the problem of if that ever does change, or if something even just happens, like say there's some legal problems in the future over an IP, and because of that ownership is they can't have it on their site anymore, or just something happens where the game goes away. I feel like it's probably better to have a select what's the word I'm looking for? Collection of games that are your own, whether it be hard copies or digital copies, but being able to get those games and keep them, having them physically your own, is a lot better than your ownership of it being reliant on how generous a corporation could be feeling, or if this corporation's system is going. I can't think of a word that really like describes it. Say the corporation has had a problem with lawyers, or even just they can't have the game on there anymore and they have to get rid of it. If you have your own copy, it's yours. You don't have to rely on that subscription service, whereas now it's gone.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
In, I would say, 90% of those cases where, for some reason, the game won't be on the subscription service because of some time after the game is released, I will argue that the game will probably be cheap enough to buy anyways if you wanted it.
Fair. That's
the way I
for
see
purchase
it.
Somewhere.
Because there are some. I'm trying to think if there's any. Yeah, there are some. Not necessarily the best games, I will say, but there are some Game Pass titles I have played, and after playing them, I bought them on Steam. Because it's like, yeah, I know I'll like it. That's one thing I do like about, I guess, this subscription service is that it can be, for ones that do drop day one, they can be almost like, for the Zoomers out there was a ye old form of entertainment where you get to go to a place called a video store.
Oh,
and you got to rent things.
Don't do this, Tom.
So you pay $7. And then you got to pick something. They also did this with video games. So the ones that we probably all know, at least in Canada, would have been Blockbuster for a lot of us, where you walk in and you could rent a game and play it for 7 days for $7, which is, back in that day, a lot of us didn't own a lot of games. They owned games that we know we would play over and over and over again. But for a lot of games, as I remember, with me and my brother, we would basically, we'd rent something and we'd play through it in a week, and usually we were done. If we rented it a second time, that usually means we'd probably have to buy it. And by buy it, get it for a birthday or get it for Christmas, because that was how long ago that was. I
thought you were gonna say that you did the old switcheroo.
The old switcheroo?
Oh, that's vile.
That's vile.
Yeah.
Rent stuff and then never return or swap for something else. Terrible.
Yeah.
The nerve of some people.
But I see that happening more and more. Like, and sometimes you don't have to pay for the service all the time. For example, with this EA Play Pro, whatever, I used it to play the Dead Space remake. Played it, finished it, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't need to pay for this anymore. So canceled my subscription, and then it goes till the end of the month, but starting in March, it's canceled. And then guess when I'm gonna play it again? In April 28th, when Jedi Survivor comes out. So I don't have to pay $80 for that game. So I'm going to keep doing that. In this sense, I am going to applaud this because it is always nicer to pay $20 instead of $80 for something, for access for something. And by the time I would want to replay Jedi Survivor, if there's a third game or something like that, by the time I would want to replay it, it is probably so cheap that I would probably just buy it for myself instead of just paying for it. And an example of this, I guess, is I had the original. I bought it on Origin, which is EA's thing, ages and ages ago, but Dragon Age Inquisition. And so I bought it on there ages and ages ago, and now we're reaching the point where maybe this Dragon Age game might come out this year. Probably going to come out next year, but in the last Steam sale, I bought Dragon Age Inquisition and all the DLCs for like $8.
Wow.
And so like this is an example of that where first time for the next Dragon Age, I'll probably pay the EA Play Pro or whatever for $20, play it, and then by the next Dragon Age in 50 million years, I probably would have bought that Dragon Age anyways, with all the DLCs for super cheap because the time in had passed. But yeah, that's my devil's advocate for that. More options is always better for the consumer. I'm always gonna say that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having the subscription service, like when we rented games back in the day, is a cheaper or a more economical way to almost trial these games, and then if you like them to a certain degree, then you go forth and you buy the full copy, or sorry, not full copy, but you buy a copy for yourself to keep and use, and play at your leisure.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Like we were talking about rent. It's great to subscribe and rent. That's pretty much what the subscription is now, is just renting, but with an indefinite timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm still in favor of ownership. Just that I'm in favor of having something of your own.
No, that's fair. I've heard it said that if ever these servers were to go down, then your subscription is kind of kaput, so you can't play those things anymore.
That's my biggest gripe against that. It doesn't really touch with video games. It touches more with subscription-based movies. Is many movies have been censored or changed to kind of fit our more modern sensibilities today, and it inherently, oh shit, here's a really good example. Doesn't even have to be censorship. It just has to be what they think is better. The Star Wars Episode 4. How many times has that been edited and CGI improved? Like, what streaming service could you go to where you will see the original Star Wars?
YouTube.
Well, that's almost a special case where George Lucas felt the need to fiddle, and then Disney felt the need to fiddle.
That's true,
so.
but I mean, like, there have been scenes in movies that have just been censored just because, well, we think, oh, that shouldn't have been said, or oh, this could have been better in this way, and it's the original and how it was originally released is good enough if you enjoyed it. Like if you like the CGI Jabba or whatever God damn it. Just if you enjoy that stuff, like Han moving his head to evade a blaster, it's very clearly just someone shifting his cut and pasted head to his side. Basically, if you enjoy like the edits and the way that they bettered it, then all power to you. But in my opinion, the fact that movie has been changed so many times that it's actually difficult to find the original release is very much why I advocate for ownership of your own media. Because you never know when someone else is going to say it could be better and they're going to change it on you, and now you're stuck with their vision and not the original vision that you enjoyed.
Yeah, or remove it from a service entirely. Like there's
remove it from a service entirely.
Like that HBO Max boondoggle that happened when they merged with Discovery.
Oh, what happened there?
Oh, there was like tons and tons and tons of animated shows that they made on that were just basically canceled and taken out of the service. So the only way to not legally, you can't legally watch any of these shows. The only way to watch them is to pirate them, which is what I do anyways. Every time I watch a TV show, or a movie or something like that, there's a little thing that says, like, farewell and adieu to you sweet Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, sweet ladies of Spain. Because I'm a pirate. I don't care. But,
Tom, you can't say that. The FBI is going to come after you.
No, they're not going to come after me. The laws are pretty lax here for a very short tangent, but I'm not going to do that. But in that sense, a tangent that's kind of related that I think is really interesting, I guess, is, as Mike was saying, media preservation. And we see that with older generation video games, where there is no legal way to play certain games, like a lot of the, take Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4, or Silent Hill 1 through 4. There's no real legal easy way to do it apart from buying a PS1 or PS2 copy that for many people can be prohibitively expensive. And the only way to play those now, because the publishers do not provide us with any other way to play them, is through piracy, or in this case, emulation. There's a great example for a horror game that I really, really enjoy, that's from the PS2 era, that sort of golden age, is called Rule of Rose, which was an Atlas-developed and published survival horror game from way back that sold very, very few copies in North America, and that's one of those games that's like, it's running almost $1,000.
Oh, jeez.
That sort of thing. And that's the only legal way to play it. And so that's a problem. I think in the future, game preservation is going to be a big thing. And while a lot of people say I shill too much for Xbox, and I said, it's like, buddy, like, I can't fault Xbox for making their latest console, where if you plug in, and we tested this at my one buddy's house that has an Xbox Series X or whatever, where I brought my Xbox copy of Morrowind, plugged it into the machine, and it played it. And it's like, that's important. That's important in this day and age. And I guess to add a little short news story for this, Nintendo just had their Direct that they added a whole bunch of Game Boy titles to their like Switch Online service or whatever.
Took them long enough.
Yeah, exactly. It took them long enough, and it doesn't have the things that I want in it. And that one, I also don't have a Switch. So, there's that. But at least that's a step in the right direction. I'm waiting for a lot of these other games to make it on there. I would love to play a nicely remastered, not remade, remastered Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, 4. Silent Hill 2 you can play, but you have to pirate it, and then you have to get all the fixes and stuff that the community's been working on for years and years and years now. But it's incredible because I can play it in 21:9, and it works just flawlessly. The cutscenes are pretty great. It's like, you could take it up to 4K resolution if you want, but yeah, game preservation is going to be an issue in the future with a lot of greats, especially. And the companies take their lazy approach. They either do what Fatless did with Persona 3 Portable, which is just the laziest port you could ever do. Or they do with what other studios do, is that, well, they won't port or make a remaster for the old game. They'll just remake it. And thankfully EA, which is like kind of a godsend these days, thankfully EA made the remake for Dead Space, but they haven't delisted the original Dead Space, which is quite a testament. I know a lot of games, like the Grand Theft Auto is a good example. Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, you can't play the original version. Well, you can play it if you already bought it, but you can't buy the original versions on Steam anymore. You buy these disgusting, horrible, like, remasters that are...
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it so that you can't play them in the original state. You gotta play those remasters. And I think you're still paying You had to pay full price
And
for
you
them
gotta
too,
pay
like
full
AAA
price.
pricing.
I thought I could have sworn I had the original San Andreas.
Then keep it. It's gonna be lost history pretty soon.
Like, if you have it on Steam already, you already have it. You don't have to.
Okay, here we are.
But
San
the
Andreas.
original page, I don't think you can buy it. Unless they change it, but I remember it was
Can
a
I
big...
go to the original page? Well, yeah. Notice Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is no longer available on the Steam store.
See? Told you.
Jesus. See, this kind of goes even like a level further where it's like, get physical media.
Oh, yeah.
Just
That'd
own
be the
physical
best.
media if you can.
Yeah.
Because you never know when this is going to happen. And now, like I said, you're forced to someone else's vision of how this game should have been. And usually, today, your vision is garbage. I'm directly talking to you, the creator. Your vision is garbage.
No comment. No comment. I'm the creator. I'm the creator.
Not you.
But, yeah, like another example is Rome Total War. You can't buy the original Rome Total War anymore. You gotta buy that terrible
really?
remaster that completely changes the UI and changes a lot of mechanics that you can only find in the original Rome Total War that you can't find anywhere else. And it's awful. Just awful. But, yeah. End of
Diablo
that.
2 and Warcraft 3 had that too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Endless, see?
They might have backpedaled now, but
I think they backpedaled because everybody hated it. And that company's on fire and it's burning and it's sinking. But, you know, I think that leads us nicely into, speaking of creator visions that are trampled on and disgusted and being destroyed over time for no reason at all except to make more money. Have you guys been keeping up or hearing about the Wizards of the Coast open game license fiasco?
oh,
What? No.
yo, you're
What
in
is
for
this?
a real treat.
Oh,
Wizards
this is-
of the Coast?
So, for
Wizards of the Coast.
yeah, Wizards of the Coast. For the fellas out there, we don't just play video games. We also love media of all sorts. One sort of media that we all love is tabletop RPGs, tabletop role-playing games, if you will. So these are things like Dungeons and Dragons or the original Call of Cthulhu game. That's those sort of tabletop games. In terms of Star Wars, right now it's like Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, those sorts of things. My favorite.
Those who tuned into the first episode probably could glean that from us.
Exactly. Yeah, from the amount of CRPGs that we played, or Planescape Torment, or basically endless. And so, history lesson, I'm sorry, but we have to set up this sort of context for the audience.
Set the scene.
We have to set up the scene. So, in the year 3000, Wizards of the Coast, which Wizards of the Coast is a giant company right now that they own the licenses for Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. And if you play video games or you're even tangentially interested in any sort of popular media, you probably have heard of one of two. If you're a certain person in the audience, you will probably know one, aka Magic the Gathering, as the sort of game that will get people in your house to fill stacks and stacks and stacks of cards everywhere that will comically fall over and spread all over the floor and make a humongous mess that will always make me laugh. But anyway, Wizards of the Coast bought Dungeons and Dragons way back in the late 90s that was previously owned by a company called TSR. Or, I guess they still own TSR, but anyway. Dungeons and Dragons is the most well-known tabletop RPG of all kind. Everybody knows it. Everybody and their mother these days is playing it, much to my chagrin, but that is besides the point. And since it was a dying property in the 2000s, when they released the 3rd edition for Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, the company that owns this property, created a thing called the Open Game License. And so what the Open Game License is that you could create worlds, you could create anything that you really wanted to using the system. So using the D20 system that they had created for 3rd edition, and you could sell it as your own product. And that is because to this day within the United States, and I think most countries in the world, you cannot patent rule systems.
That's correct.
You cannot patent rule systems. So they have this open game license thing where you can directly one-to-one take the rules from D&D 2.0 or 3.0 and use it for your homebrew game system and sell it. A lot of these systems or games and such under the open game license were usually splat books. So splat books within the tabletop RPG sphere are things like supplementary books that add in new characters, new classes, new weapons, or basically different mechanics for you to play however you wish to play. Or different adventures. So these are pre-made adventure modules that the game master can use to create an adventure for their players to play. Or in some of the bigger cases, such as what can be found with Pathfinder or Starfinder, which nobody plays, entire games using this game system and expanded ad nauseum with, in the case of Pathfinder, to something different, but still use the same rudimentary system. And so what happened is that after 20 or so years, Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that owns Dungeons and Dragons, were allegedly going to change the open game license. So here we go. And using this story from Games Radar, which is of course the D&D open game license controversy explained, all the drama explained, and why you should care. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to read the changes that were suggested. At the beginning of January of 2023, a revised version of the open game license was apparently leaked to Linda Codega at IO9. You can find the full rundown of everything supposed to be included within that document via Linda's write-up, which is included in the link. But here are the broad strokes. At the time of the leak, the new open game license had invalidated the original open game license, meaning it could no longer be used. Stated that the D&D publisher Wizards of the Coast must be notified about and receive a report on the earnings of all monetized content. Said that products using the open game license, which earned over $750,000 per year, must pay Wizards of the Coast a royalty fee of 25%, or 20% if funded through Kickstarter for all income beyond that point. Claimed the right to use all open game license in any way Wizards of the Coast saw fit. Stop D&D related NFTs and blockchain nonsense, and allowed termination of the license for content that is blatantly racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, or otherwise discriminatory, etc., etc. So basically, before then, the open game license was you could use this rule system, make your own game, make money on it, and go hog wild with it. Now, in this new leak, they tried to change it and basically say, give me money, give me all your money, give me all your money, and it's blown up in their face. Because the open game license is arguably the reason why D&D is so popular as it is today. One of the things that I despise about D&D that has gotten a lot of people, and a lot of wrong people, I might add, and I'm gonna go there, is a thing called Critical Role, and it's created a new industry of people, of university and high school theater kids that won't shut up to get into my game. I want to gatekeep my game. Leave it for disgusting dorks like us. Don't get here. If you're a theater kid and you think you're funny, you're not. shut up. Be quiet. Don't play Dungeons and Dragons. Don't do anything like that. And that's why I don't play D&D anymore. I play games like Dark Heresy. Or I'm gonna start playing Traveler just to stick it to the man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the opinions posited here therein are solely owned by Tom the Chosen One.
I love how this podcast has basically just become us shitting on people's visions and dreams.
Yeah, it's our soapbox to hate everything. It's our soapbox. It's wonderful. But anyways, to round it back, and I'm gonna puke, but because of things like Critical Role and how popular they are, that saved that company. Because you need an understanding of the basic rules of Dungeons and Dragons in order to use any sort of homebrew system that you have within this open game license. So even though you had, I don't know, I don't know anything about Critical Role except for its effect on TTRPGs, but I assume if there is like a source book or splat book or something for it, you still need to get the Dungeons Master Guide or whatever, or the player's handbook or whatever. I don't know for 5th edition because I haven't looked at it forever.
Yeah.
But
I think because of the whole you can't patent game systems, there is a very bare bones version of the rules that are available for free to download under the standard rules document.
Yes, that's right. There's also the standard rules document that is part of the open game license that is basically a fluffless, and within this sort of sphere, when we mean fluff means no story, no nothing, pure, what we would also say crunch. Crunch being the word for basically just the rules, the hard math, so to speak.
Just
this
strictly the
math.
Mechanics.
And so, because of that, it's actually allowed Dungeons and Dragons to become as big as it is today. And so them going back on their word on the Open Games license caused a lot of backlash. To me, it was kind of like, I don't like Wizards of the Coast. I think they're a genuinely terrible company. So I'm sitting here kind of like I'm being all smug. I'm being happy. But they made some changes after the backlash. So the article thus reads, changes after the backlash. After days of silence, Wizards of the Coast finally responded with a blog post addressing the turmoil that reversed many of the proposed changes, calling the leaked version a draft, quote unquote. An altered version of the D&D OGL soon followed. The new Open Games license would not contain a royalty structure or royalty fees, didn't include financial reporting or registration requirements, clarified that creators own their own content, stated that anything already released under the OGL would be unaffected, said that live stream, virtual tabletops, and actual plays aren't affected. Please, Wizards of the Coast, go back and take that all down so this sickness can be removed. Tank your own company so less losers can play this game. But anyway, such a big backlash that, they immediately had to eat their own words, go in and do it. But I guess final thing that I will say in regards to this new story and presenting it is that an interesting part is that Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro. And out of all the departments at Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast is the only one that makes money. And so it is of my personal belief and conspiracy theory that they're trying to squeeze every penny that they can out of people who like Wizards of the Coast products so they can make some of the money back, because the rest of Hasbro apparently isn't making any money at all. Anyway, I will leave it you guys to jump in.
What else does Hasbro really have on it other than... Didn't they used to have, like, the Power Rangers?
They still do.
Okay. I can't imagine that being a moneymaker anymore. I don't see any kids with those figurines.
Kids don't play with toys anymore.
Kids are too busy playing Fortnite and watching Jake Paul. Toys do not make money. That's why Toys R Us went under down in the States.
Now we're just coming off as a bunch of boomers. Them damn kids and their Jake Pauls and their fucking Fortnite.
The only one buying their toys these days are grown men and women who refuse to let go of their childhood playthings. And I should know because I'm one of them. But some of the other properties that Hasbro currently has under their thumb are like the G.I. Joe line of action dolls, Transformers in all its entirety.
So
board games like the Parker Brothers stuff, Monopoly, etc., etc. And then I think My Little Pony as well. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not sure about that one.
Let's see, Hasbro IP list. All right, cool. Category, Hasbro franchises. Littlest Pet Shops, Mr. Potato Head. What?
Oh, they got a lot more.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Potato Head. Wait, are they owned by Disney?
Which one?
Well, they have Mr. Potato Head, so I'm assuming they're owned by Disney at some point or somewhere in this.
No.
Well, Disney probably had, or Pixar probably had to pay them for that.
Yeah.
To use their product in their movies.
Probably. G.I. Joe, Dungeons and Dragons, Trailer Park Boys.
Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, Trailer Park Boys. Transformers franchise. Okay, that would. I mean, I don't see that making them a hell of a lot of money. It probably did back in the day.
Alrighty. So we live in a dastardly awful world where the Critical Role RPG bullshit that comes out is that. And we could have had a world where you take Critical Role, but it's people just LARPing as, or I guess role-playing, because this isn't live-action role-playing. Role-playing awful trailer park people from Nova Scotia. That could have been the reality.
We could have had the Trailer Park Boys Transformers mashup we've always wanted. Ricky versus Optimus Prime.
We are living in the worst timeline.
The real joke for the audience out there is that if you live in a trailer park in Nova Scotia, you do just live Trailer Park Boys.
This is true. It is an accurate representation of, what is it, Dartmouth? Pretty sure that's Dartmouth.
Dartmouth. Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah. Or Dartmouth, depending on how where you're from.
Dartmouth. Ooh.
Dartmouth, not Dartmouth.
Ooh.
They have Nerf.
Oh
Hasbro has Nerf.
Yeah, so they have a ton of toy franchises, but again,
toys.
like Tom said,
yeah, nobody buys toys.
It's D&D that's making the money.
D&D, Wizards of the Coast in general. So it's it's D&D.
Sorry.
Magic the Gathering, which is a big part of Wizards of the Coast. And I think they also make a lot of money in licensing different things. But I can't I think licensing the Transformers movies makes them quite a bit of money, I would say, considering they're still making them.
Well, people like us still watch them.
I didn't watch them.
People like me, sorry.
No. This is turning from a soapbox where we hate on people, and it's turning onto a soapbox where we just hate each other. And we turn into a pack of hyenas that we will devour each other over the worst opinion, which is what you're all here for. You're here for the blood sport anyway.
That's right. And we who are about to die salute you.
Yeah.
I still can't get over the fact that Hasbro owns the Trailer Park Boys. What the fuck? This is not right.
This is what Mike's getting out of this episode.
It's blowing my mind. I'm not even the people that have been pumping out Power Rangers in like 8 different flavors to me my entire life also have created one of the shows that I've done my best to avoid most of my life.
They might have not developed it. They might just own the IP.
The IP.
Or the property. For
stuff like games.
That's such an interesting choice because their categories and franchises are not that diverse. They've got maybe 13 to 20 different IPs on here. That's about it. It's they're not that broad. All right.
Yeah, and that's probably why they're going under, because if Wizards of the Coast is propping up your whole company, then something's going horribly wrong.
That's it. How much Dungeons and Dragons is probably bringing them in? I think how much did they say it was? 485 million.
I don't know. I know they recently spent a lot of money purchasing D&D Beyond, which for the longest time was a third-party program to allow players and people running the game or dungeon masters to store their campaigns, store their characters, have access to all digital versions of the rule sets. And so Wizards of the Coast had to spend a lot of money to get that program under their fold. And now that they're trying to develop their new version of online D&D tabletop gaming called 1D&D, there's speculation that this is also partially the reason why they changed the OGL, because it heavily targeted virtual tabletops, and with 1D&D supposedly being another all-encompassing virtual tabletop, they wanted to essentially knock out the competition.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And there's apparently also rumors where higher-ups, either in Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, were saying that D&D was not being monetized enough, which also might have influenced why they're making this change. What else? It's funny, really. Remember when I was first following these stories and I was hearing about how they needed to make all these royalty payments? Like, there were a lot of people who were genuinely scared that this would cut into their livelihood, because they make their money off of making their own worlds for this game system that are completely divorced from Wizards of the Coast, and as such, didn't have to pay anything. Like, for example, Pathfinder by Paizo. Mm-hmm. One of their biggest competitors, banking off of their rule sets and a lot of their similar interpretations of characters and monsters, which is really the only thing that they could copyright, is interpretations of characters and monsters.
And the specific monsters within their rule books that are not mythology monsters and things like that, like a Mind Flayer, for example, is the one that always comes up. That is as well as different settings, for example, Baldur's Gate or Forgotten Realms. Those are also owned by Wizards of the Coast. And other games like Ravenloft and Dark Sun and Planescape, all of which are way better than Forgotten Realms, but we're never going to see them because Wizards of the Coast are a bunch of hacks.
They're very, very proud of their system. And it's funny that you mentioned Critical Role having propped them up, because I think these changes probably would have affected them as well, because they are separate from Wizards of the Coast.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so this is just negative all the way around. And
this sort of thing already happened once before, though, because a lot of people made a lot of materials and things like that required knowledge of D&D 3 and 3.5 to run their different splat books, their different campaigns, that sort of thing. And they benched all their marketable materials on systems and things that they created for one game. And when D&D went to 4th edition, a lot of these smaller, distributors or different creators, they had to go out of business because they couldn't pump out new rule systems and put them to books enough or quick enough for them to be updated. And this was during a time when, the internet isn't as prolific as it is now, where you can just easily create something and then just sell a PDF of it. So the ones that were the quickest to do that ended up sticking around, and they kind of really just do that. But this is way back where... this is way back where back in the day you had the Tome of Eldritch Magic, I think, is one of them.
I can't recall.
It's one of the big ones, but that's an actual book that you can get that was profited under the open game license, which was, I forget the guy's name, but he was a former writer for D&D TSR. And he basically made his own splat book that added a bajillion new spells. And it was incredible. But that was part of the open game license. And then when they went to 4th edition and had a lot of trouble, because it's like you create a whole big giant book of spells that run on one system and you change the system. And if you want to be modern and here's the new rule set that everybody's using, you gotta go back and change a lot of spells. So, we're not casting spells anymore.
You have to wonder if they wouldn't have had to make any of these changes if some of the stuff they were outputting was, what people wanted. Because there's clearly something that people are looking for in these third-party rules and splatbook developers that Wizards of the Coast is just simply not providing. So,
yeah, it's I am of the opinion, to be honest, because I like more story-oriented games in my tabletop RPGs, as these two fellows are probably known to know by now. And so
we're well aware, Tom.
Yeah, we're well aware. We're well aware that every single combat encounter I have is more like a puzzle and less like crunch. But in terms of role-playing, the D20 system and Dungeons and Dragons in general is not that really good for it. Because D&D, by what Gary Gygax, blessed be upon his name, PBOH, this was a supplement for Chainmail, which was a war game. And so D&D to this point still has a lot of that sort of Chainmail wargaming DNA in it. And so personally, I like to play other games that have different rule systems that are more attuned to what kind of game I want to play. In that case, for example, like Call of Cthulhu has tons and tons of skills and a very intuitive D100 system that I really enjoy. And just different things. Setting is not necessarily it, but there's more interesting settings than D&D. But I think for a lot of people going into the hobby and starting to get into the hobby, they sort of like that high fantasy sort of nonsense. No offense to high fantasy, familiar. I like it. It's familiar and it's easy. And I'm sitting here as this disgusting old creep that's like, no, I want to play my 1920s game. It's like, oh, so you could have evil monsters, or you could be racist. So I could be racist. But no.
Bring back Dark Sun, where it was baked into the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Dark Sun. Where a bunch of awful. The light of day. That was a different time, folks. It was a different time. But going into it, yeah, there's just different settings, different things that I like to play that I guess I'm too old, I'm too boomer for this sort of stuff. But it's definitely the reason why the open game license is so big is because Wizards of the Coast doesn't have the talent or the reach to make the systems that people want, so people just make them and make money off them. And so, especially when it comes to a thing like a rule system where, like, if you make the rules and you can't patent rules because you can't patent them, just make them make their money. You already succeeded long ago, but this is coming from up top, right? It's coming from execs that absolutely need their money. So,
got to have money.
Money. Good old Tom and Jerry reference. So, folks, are we good with this topic for now?
I think we've said all that can be said. What about you, Tom? What about you, Mike?
I think that's about all I can contribute. Yes, I'm not too familiar with Wizards of the Coast.
Alrighty, then going into the second chosen topic today, which is my topic. Here we are. This is one that I have labeled under when does a game warrant a remake? So, for those that probably have understood some context, I recently played through the Dead Space remake. And if you watch my video on it, which you should, if you haven't, and if you have, watch it maybe 5 more times, please. But if you watched it through and you watched it through to the end, my basic opinion of it is that, and it still is that the original Dead Space is just as good. This remake is just, it's flashier, it's nicer, it does look incredible, it looks great. The way the Frostbite engine works in this case, it looks amazing. But in terms of warrant, it still didn't warrant a remake. You could still play the original Dead Space, it still plays great, it still holds up. And you could play one for way cheaper than the other. And so, to bring it to our panel here today, and for anybody that wants to comment or just chat or whatever, that makes me do wonder, because we did talk about this a little bit with the last TomCast. But when do you fellas think a game really warrants a remake and not a remaster?
Oh, like I'm assuming when you mean like a remake, you mean like everything from the ground up, completely redesigned.
And new assets, like completely new assets, either redesigned or just new assets, like the Dead Space remake, or Resi 1 and 2 remake, or the Silent Hill 2 remake.
I was actually gonna say Resident Evil is almost the perfect example. It's the mechanics, well, for the age were good, are clunky now. It's just completely out of date. But for its time, it was still a well-played game. So, as for like that's the kind of game I think would deserves remakes. Whereas like it was for its time a very good game. While its controls weren't the height, it was good. I don't know. I don't know, like the forward back controls, because I remember playing it on the D-pad and it was kind of garbage. I honestly preferred what was the one with the dinosaurs? Primal Fear?
Oh, Dino Crisis?
Dino Crisis. Jesus, why did I think Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis felt a little bit better with its gunplay gameplay than Resident Evil, but the Resident Evil remake is sublime, just absolutely top tier. It's such a fun game. The game, like, they absolutely fix everything. They pretty much just polished up the Resident Evil 4 gameplay over the shoulder. So, yeah, that's in my opinion. That's when it deserves a remake. Is when it'll be really good, and all you have to do is kind of upgrade everything.
Andrew, you got something? Andrew, do you have something to say before I smoke this guy?
Yeah, sure. I don't entirely know what you're saying, so I'm hoping I'm not gonna step in on your argument. But I think that a time, for example, is a very important aspect as to whether or not a game deserves a remake. So, some of the more recent popular or successful remakes that have come out as of late, apart from, say, like Dead Space, are some of those classic platformers like Spyro or Crash Bandicoot, or I know, Tom, you played Battle for Bikini Bottom lately. Those games that are getting the shiny new coat of paint and more polished control, game feel, I think very much do warrant a remake, especially since they're still fantastic games and they'll now be more accessible to a new generation of potential fans for those franchises. And another one, Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, that'll be coming out if it hasn't already, because I'm a bit under a rock when it comes to a lot of these things. But Destroy All Humans very much deserve it of a remake in terms of staying true to its art style and just bringing that style of, or kind of what people know and love, and just giving them that shiny new coat of paint. Now, when games are relatively or more recent, I don't think a remake is necessary. So take The Last of Us.
No,
that game is currently getting a remake, and that is just it's why? Why is it getting a remake? It got ported very well to the PS4 from the PS3, and to my knowledge, from 4 to 5. So a remake is completely nonsensical when its original format still looks just as good and still plays as well as what this new remake is supposedly going to play as. So time is a very important aspect as to when, or as to whether or not a game deserves a remake.
No, you definitely did not step on my. You pretty much complimented. You said a lot better what I was trying to say. Honestly, no, a remake just. When something needs to be completely redesigned and rebuilt, just because, I don't know, it's gameplay mechanics and. I'm trying to think here. So I'm sorry very much to try to catch my thoughts. I'm still very much dealing with this hangover, and my head is fucking killing me.
Yeah.
Give you a break. Let
me jump in.
Tom, go ahead and just ruin my shit.
I'll let Mike compose his thoughts before I smite him. But as far as Andrew goes,
a remaster is only required when graphics and audio are really the only problems. Like the game, if Super Mario 64 could use a remaster, but it doesn't require a remake. Whereas Resident Evil 2 required a remake because trying to play that game today is fucking garbage.
Okay.
Hold on, Tom. Hold on, Tom.
Hold on. I'm putting the steam back in my ears. But
that was essentially my.
Let me comment on Andrew's things first. All those games, Andrew, are completely true. What you said. What do all those games have in common?
Like the
your Spyro, your SpongeBob, your Destroy All Humans. These games, these remakes of games from PS1 and the PS2 era that have been remade for the modern day. What is the one thing that connects and ties them all together?
Oh boy.
You know what it is? You cannot buy those games as they were now. Those are all the reasons why they're there. You cannot... Games like Battle for Bikini Bottom and things like that, and those Spyro games, those are all nicely put and bundled into a collection that you can buy without going to the store off the PS or Xbox store right now, or on Steam, or whatever. Other ones...
We're going back to our previous topic, almost with the whole exorbitant price of old media. Okay.
This is old media. These are... You cannot buy those games as they were. And it will lead to when I have to respond to Mike, but... You cannot buy those games as you want them to, as they were. There is no way to buy them apart from going to your game store, looking at your used games, looking at the bargain bin, and hoping to fish out a gem out of all the stinky rubber boots that you're trying to fish out. The 20 copies of NHL 06 or whatever, and things like that. That's what all those games have in common, is that you can't buy them today. You can't buy the original version of those games today because they were originally made for a different system, made for different things. You know, source code is lost, things like that. Most of those games are remade from the ground up because a lot of things like that. And the PS2, PS3, PS1, the original Xbox, 360 less so, and those old Nintendo ones, those were... The environments those games were made in are not PCs like they are today. And so they are, unless you have the source code and you can build them from the ground up, they're very hard to do unless you use a built-in emulator. Now, because of numerous licensing and dumb, stupid issues, Nintendo and Sony do not have emulators for things. I could be wrong in the future. If you're from the future, give me the winning lottery numbers. Don't complain. Just give me those instead. Instead of complaining about this out-of-date thing. But
I guess there's a caveat with that, because Nintendo technically has... Their old games are technically running off emulations that they built into the thing.
Don't even need to wait to the future for that one. Yeah, no, they did that. And the other one that does that too is Xbox. Because Xbox is running, I guess, it's some sort of emulator, or it recognizes what discs you have, and then it downloads like a patch that allows it to play on modern systems. So that's the reason why we don't have that here. Now, the other reason why we have the remakes like that on that same basis is that now you've created a new remade game for modern systems, and all modern systems are basically PCs at this point. So these games are basically future-proofed for the most part. So you can keep selling them generation after generation after generation and really just give them a patch or something like that. And so that's kind of my argument for that, because this is leading to the second argument, is that I would argue most of those games mechanically are still just fine. In terms of survival horror especially, there's a reason why there's fixed camera angles. Not even just having to do with the limitations of the systems at that point. There's a reason why there's fixed camera angles, and in the case of tank controls, there's a reason why there's tank controls, and that's because of fixed camera angles. And so, in that sense, there is a lot for these old games. When it comes to, I do like Resi 2 Remake. I think it's a great remake. I like Resi 3 Remake. You know what I'd also would love? Just having Resi 1, 2, and 3 put into just being able to play on modern systems and not having to. Granted, I got them all on PlayStation, and I do have the solutions to play PlayStations on modern TVs and things like that. Not here yet, but we'll get there.
Eventually.
Yeah, I just gotta get them from Canada, but those are games I still want to play. Those are games that, for perspective, the Silent Hill games I still play every year around Halloween, like religiously. Just like how every Boxing Day, religiously, I play Shadow of the Colossus. And get that time lower and lower and lower. And you people that I do it with, you know who you are. You know who you are out there. But that's what I want. And so out of all the Resi remakes that they've made, the best one was the remake for Resident Evil 1. Because they just made it look better, provided like it a new fresh... Yeah, the one on GameCube. Gave it a fresh coat of paint, but they kept it mechanically intact. Because there's a reason why things like fixed camera angles were done. The reason why there's tank controls. Tank controls, people complain about them all the damn time. But tank controls are there because of fixed camera angles. If you had a good example of that is Silent Hill 4, where it has fixed camera angles, but it doesn't have tank controls. And so, for the audience out there that doesn't understand tank controls, it's basically when you press a button, like if you press up on your D-pad, that means you go forward. You press left or right, that turns your character. And then you press back, you go backwards. And so, why that was designed is because when you go from room to room in the original Resident Evils or in Silent Hill, when you go to a different room, the camera angle changes. And so, what would happen is if you don't have tank controls, if you're moving left on your screen and there's a door on the right and you go from the right and you're still clicking right, then you go to the next room and the screen changes to a different perspective where basically you came from the right hand side of the screen into the room. If you had a normal control system and you were still pressing right, you would just go straight back into the room you came. That's how they would work. Tank controls made it so when you press forward, it doesn't matter which way the camera's facing, your character is going forward the way that he or she is propelling herself, or themselves. So if you're playing Resident Evil, you move from one screen to the other, and a lot of these aren't even like levels, these are the same room, just at different angles. You move forward, and you go into a different angle on the screen, you're still moving forward as the level paces itself. So if there's a bend in the corner, you can still hit that corner the same way, instead of just, you go, and because you were holding left and you went left, and then the camera angle changed, and then now you go the other way, and you go back, and you keep repeating yourself over and over again. That's what happens if you don't have tank controls in games like that. Now, more importantly, is fixed camera angles. Fixed camera angles have a purpose, and that is to make things more cinematic, to be able to control your scares more precisely as if it was a film. You see that exquisitely with the original Resident Evil games, where things like everybody remembers the dogs jumping through the windows. Everybody remembers the liquor showing up for the first time. The liquor showing up for the first time in the remake is this big, giant, bombastic scene where it pops in, and then you gotta go fight it. While in the first one, the first time you experience one, and it's kind of there in the remake, but it's not that well done, is that it doesn't smash the window, it goes through the window, and it spooks you. Because you have to create things, anticipation and suspense and things like that. And the way it's done in the original is that you go from the back of this room and you're using your tank controls to come towards the camera. And this is another reason why I think the controls are brilliant. You might have this level and you might come in from the door or something like that into this new room, and the camera might be facing away where you can clearly see your character. It always is. There might be a monster behind the camera. So on a part of that sort of little localized level where you don't know where it is until you keep going forward and go through the level to change the camera angle to see what you're fighting, or alternatively for the monster to come to you. That creates a thing that I've said in numerous of my videos, that it creates a dilemma. It creates, what do you do? Do you rush forward and figure out what it is and how to kill it quickly? Or do you sit there horrified with a pistol in hand, waiting for it to come to you? Because if this is Silent Hill, all you can hear is your radio going off, and you have no idea what's on the other end of the screen. If this is Resident Evil, you're hearing something. Or in the case of a game called Tormented Souls that I played, that was on my, it was an honorable mentions for 2021. There are times you go into a level and you can hear some of the monsters, like they make distinct sounds, and you can't see them because they're in a different part of the level. And that to me is more spooky than any sort of things. Now, the Resident Evil remakes, they're decent remakes. They're good, like in terms of production, it's the same with the Dead Space remake. They do everything they need to do. They bring it to a new, the Dead Space especially, because it basically just does the same game again. And Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake do that as well. They don't have that same magic for me that those original games do. Those original games, even though I played them numerous times, those games are spookier than the remakes. Because the remakes are like, they're more action horror instead of survival horror, even though I like action horror. Mm-hmm. They don't spook me the same way that the old ones do. If you take Silent Hill especially, with the way that, like, whenever, after this video, or after this TomCast, if you will, go and watch the first 15 minutes, I think Andrew was there, of Silent Hill when you reach the other world for the first time. Watch how when you go into that corner, the camera angle changes. It creates a Dutch angle. All the sounds and everything come at you in different ways, and it creates a tension and it rises within you. Those are the same techniques used in cinema to create tension. And that's how you can create it with fixed camera angles. There's different ways to create tensions and things like that with different types of gameplay, different camera angles, but the same reasons why Resi 2 and Resi 1 and Resi 3 or Silent Hill 1 through 4 spooked me, it's the same reasons why Signalis spooked me, is that you go into a room, and if you watched my review on that, there's a unit in that game called the Colibri unit that is this type of replica that uses electronic brain waves to try and basically control people in this world. But because of what happens in the game, they get corrupted into this goopy, horrifying, eldritch sort of flesh monster mess. And what they do is that they immediately, in whatever room you go in, they go and they hit you with just noise and noise and noise and things on your screen. And there's 4 of them. There's always 4 of them because they copy themselves, and you got to hit the right one. When you go into a room and you can't even see one right away and your screen is going like that and you have other monsters you have to deal with in the same room and you don't know where it is because it's too dark and you can't quite see, and maybe you forgot you left your flashlight behind because of other mechanics. It's like this orchestra. It's this crescendo of survival horror where every little instrument is doing their best. And so, in that sense, there is still room for those old survival horror games just remastered, put into a way where people can enjoy them again. And I think if people played those games again and they're nicer and they're more cleaned up, but with a lot of the mechanics intact, they might understand why these games were made so well in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And so I agree with pretty much everything said. I don't think you'll ever see that through Capcom. I don't think Capcom will ever embrace tank controls again.
Because they're hacks. Well, next question.
Yes, that I enjoy the fact that this kind of leads into a segue. I enjoy the fact that a lot of indie games are embracing just retro style mechanics.
That was the exact segue. Like, the tangent I was going to go in is that basically was going to have a huge disclaimer that it's like, if you're looking for horror, like, don't even look at AAA. Don't look at AAA anymore. Just look at the indie scene. The indie scene's doing stuff with horror that's way more interesting.
Mm-hmm. I could probably find like retro style horror games,
boomer shooters, or is that that's entirely different?
That's a different topic, but for a different day. Yeah. Oh, off the top of my head, Signalis. No One Lives Under the Lighthouse. Faith is a big one that we'll talk about later.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
More days.
World of Horror.
Yeah, World of Horror. That's a different one. World of Horror is great because that's also just a board game. That's literally just Eldritch Horror.
Pretty much.
Except you take Junji Ito and then you take Commodore 64 graphics and you put them together. If you want to know about that game, I have a video on that as well. Go watch it. It's wonderful. But that's pretty much what I got to say with remakes, is that I would much rather see, to be honest, a remaster instead of a remake. Now, to go back to Resident Evil, you know which Resident Evil actually needs a remake? It's Code Veronica.
Which one? 4?
Code Veronica.
Really?
You know why? Because that game sucks.
That one was a handheld, wasn't it?
No, wasn't that
the one with a very enthusiastic mansion owner? The weird voice?
Yeah.
Albert
something.
No, not Wesker. He was part of some. I can't remember, but he had such a terrible voice.
And that's because that game, the game mechanically didn't work. The game, bug-wise, glitch-wise, didn't work. It was a terrible game. That's a game that They didn't do a remake. They haven't done a remake of it.
No?
If they did, I wouldn't be singing its praises. But those are the types of games that do need remakes. Some other ones, for example, are games where people are going to hate me for this one, even though I still like these games, but there are other ways you could do them to make them spookier. Parasite Eve is a great example of a PS1 era game that has a cool concept, interesting, goopy, disgusting monsters to fight, and then it turns into is it Siphon Trigger? It's basically it turns into a just Squaresoft. I think this is Squaresoft.
Oh, Siphon Filter?
Siphon Filter maybe, but no, with Parasite Eve, it basically turns into an RPG-ish strategy game. And it's okay, I respect you. I'm gonna let you finish, but this isn't spooky. You have everything here to make something spooky, but even before a full remake of Parasite Eve, I would still rather Parasite Eve get a remaster so we can play it on modern systems, because that to me is important. Anyway, go ahead, fellas. What do you think?
I've enjoyed like a true to form retro video game embracement. I actually made a little list of, I think, what was some of them? Well, I guess we kind of really went over that. Faith was the big one on there. It's so easily made. They're using what, old Commodore graphics?
Commodore 64 and Atari 2600 graphics.
Yeah, and everything's rotoscoped.
Yeah, everything's rotoscoped, and then it has the voice synthesizer too.
Yeah, so the voices, they don't really need a voice actor. You just need one person doing multiple different motions, and then you can draw an animation over that. Kind of like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Joel Haver. He's a sketch artist. He does small little sketches on YouTube through this kind of rotoscoping, but he uses his computer, and the animation is not perfect or great by any means, but his skits are pretty funny, and it's the low effort that kind of makes it charming, which I think kind of applies to these indie games. It's the fact that there's not a lot of effort needed for graphics, audio. What you really need to focus on is story, and that's really what matters. That's really where these games shine too.
Well, yeah, because you're taking mechanics that already work. In terms of Faith, you're taking mechanics that you didn't even know existed and turning them into spooks that did. But we'll talk about Faith later, because in the what we're playing, that's what I've been playing lately. So we'll save that for a bit later if you don't mind. But Andrew, you got anything else to add?
I'm afraid I haven't been playing a whole ton of retro-esque games. It's mostly just, most of my exposure to that has been kind of through watching you or listening to you discuss it. So I don't have a ton of experience as far as those older titles. I am going back to the topic of remakes in general. I am planning on picking up, say, like THQ Nordic's Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, because I did enjoy those titles back in the day, and THQ Nordic has just been hitting it out of the park with these remakes as of late. Mm-hmm. So
and new ones.
That's kind of where I stand.
And new ones.
As far as
it kind of shadow dropped out of nowhere. But the same studio that did the SpongeBob, like, Battle for Bikini Bottom, like, remake, just made their own, like, brand new SpongeBob game. That I'm like, damn, well, I'm probably gonna have to play this here pretty soon. I haven't yet because I've been a little busy, and probably the next TomCast you'll probably hear me talk about it. But in case, I guess, to reinforce my already disgusting point again, in terms of games that, like, need a remake, we talked about it in the last TomCast, but it's like Persona 3. And
yes.
That game needs a remake because it is a mess of different versions that there is no remaster that puts just all the features together. And even then, I would probably call for that remaster first before a full remake. Not that I wouldn't want a full remake, and I'm still hoping for it. And I think it's super possible. But that's another example of game that just mechanically is all over the place. Not even really actually mechanically, it's all over the place. And yeah, it needs a remake. So you can put all this damn stuff together and clean up your mess, damn it. God damn it, Fatless, clean up your mess. Clean it up now! Oh boy. Are we good here with this topic, fellas?
I'm content if you are.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Honestly.
Should we move on?
No, I'm good. I'm good to move on.
Alrighty. This is news number 3 and our final news for this video. And it is one that isn't necessarily bad yet, but we will... we don't know yet. We don't really know.
Okay.
So, here it is. You know, people might have heard, you fellas might have heard, but gameplay for the next Dragon Age has released. And this is a topic, and sorry, not released, leaked. This is why it's interesting. This is a game that Andrew and I are both kind of eyeing, and we're like piranhas. For piranhas in a pool of water, and it's like sitting here, and it's like, if this cow is dead and it ain't got no blood in it, we ain't gonna eat it.
Exactly.
But if there's blood in the water, we're gonna be ravenous. We're gonna eat this up so bad. But anyway, this comes from Insider Gaming. From the news story is from Tom Henderson, who has leaked a bunch of stuff before. As far as I know, a lot of Call of Duty stuff, and I think Jason Schreier's Bloomberg's Jason Schreier is in here.
That's right.
Really leaked a bunch of stuff. But anyways, Insider Gaming sources who have spoken to Insider Gaming under the request of anonymity has said that Dragon Age Dreadwolf might be further away than previous rumors have suggested. The development of Dreadwolf began in 2015 and has seen significant changes over its 8-year development.
Jesus.
But EA is still yet to issue a release date for the title. Previous rumors have suggested the game could release in 2023, but the information provided to Insider Gaming suggests that the date could be rather optimistic. Sources who have knowledge of the game and its progress have said the game still lacks features, completed character lines, and still contains remnants of the game's past, which abruptly changed direction in early 2021. According to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, Dragon Age Dreadwolf pivoted from its planned multiplayer components to its single-player experience. Two sources have revealed that some of the multiplayer components are still sensed to some degree in the current build of the game, with one of the sources saying the game felt a bit like Destiny with the central hub where players could probably regroup before heading out into the next mission. The game's hub will still play a vital role in Dreadwolf in its single-player format. Dreadwolf follows a similar gameplay loop to its predecessors, which will involve recruiting and growing your crew, whom you'll encounter by completing missions. Your recruited crew will populate your hub, where you give them different pieces of equipment and modification as you progress throughout the game. It's understood that you'll be able to move from your hub to missions by passing through a mirrored portal, which if you've played the last DLC for Inquisition, then they made portals up the wazoo. You get a portal, everybody gets a portal. That sort of nonsense. As for when Dragon Age Dreadwolf will release is anyone's guess, but missing voice lines and placeholder text likely suggests it's a bit further back than originally rumored. Basically, the final portion of it was that the game, we don't know what it's going to look like. It's still missing a bunch of stuff, so it's probably going to release in 2024. That's kind of the rudimentary stuff. This is the interesting stuff, and I'm going to send it to you, or I'm going to post it in our thing. So you can So you can take a look, and I'm going to read over the thing now.
Let's check here our Actors Guild.
This is also from Tom Henderson, which is Dragon Age Dreadwolf gameplay and images leaked online. Following Insider's exclusive report on information from Dragon Age Dreadwolf, one user on Reddit, on plebit.com.
So this could be a doozy then if it's from Plebit.
Has leaked gameplay? No, I don't think so, because this is one of the subs I actually do really enjoy. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
Has leaked gameplay footage and images of the game's alpha. Although the original uploads of the file have since been deleted, re-uploads of the footage have been found, and once it's out there, it's basically going to be out there. You can see some combat gameplay of Dragon Age Dreadwolf and images below. According to the original poster, the footage was posted in response to our original report. Insider Gaming can confirm that the images and footage are authentic and likely originated from a restricted playtest that took place in the last couple weeks. Original post states, recent article by Tom Henderson prompted me to make this post instead of responding to every reply in that thread. I'll just describe what I saw overall. Yada yada yada, and honestly shocked, and we got no gameplay reveal. Background, a kind of play tester shared the recorded gameplay DH4, or Dragon Age 4, that was in early alpha at that stage. I saw they recorded before they shuffled to another project. No, I will not share the video as the individual in question asked me not to. Yada yada yada, so I'm going to skip all that and just go to a general overview.
There's definitely some God of War influences here.
This more
looks
like...
You guys are seeing this GIF.
Yeah, I'm seeing the GIF. Combat is completely in real time and similar to a hack and slash. I'm told the guild guiding reference point was God of War 2018, and that shows.
Oh, well,
Player has their regular combo attack and their abilities, as well as a special bar which generates, allowing you to pull off a special move. I don't really understand the comparison to Final 15 Final Fantasy 15's wheel. Its standard Dragon Age ability wheel. I agree with that. There is no party control demonstrated. I think it's a safe bet to say you will not be able to directly control your party members in the game. That said, you will likely be able to tell them to execute certain abilities, but apparently that was locked off in the alpha. Most immediate thing you notice is the animation quality has drastically improved. Like for other AAA title, it's probably not that big of a deal, but we've never seen animation quality this good in any Bioware game. I didn't actually play it, but I can tell it probably feels really good to control your character. No more stiff animations.
Yeah.
It's all very fluid and seems very responsive. Jumping has also been retained. As the character has a sword and shield dude, he was able to parry attacks from enemies and follow up with counters. It's hard to tell their exact abilities. They only had 2 hotkeys with the special, but one appears to be basically a drop kick and the other one's a charged sword attack. Not sure exactly what the special attack does. The UI is very similar to Dragon Age Inquisition, but this is also an alpha and UI is the last thing finalized in any game.
No, fair enough.
Character has a chest slot and a helmet slot, primary weapon slot, shield slot, so possibly secondary weapons. For accessory, 1 amulet slot, 1 belt slot, and 2 ring slots. And the player's hair looked glorious, as this quote says. I mean, it was clipping right through the helmet, but it looked flooring and bouncing as they moved. Finally, no more stiff-ass hair. Now let's hope we have more than just 2 black hairstyles. Enemies were pretty much just variations of Darkspawn, except the dragon, but again, they seem to have red lyrium powers. So, fellas, are you seeing the footage here? And the different images?
I'm seeing that one GIF that constantly keeps going.
You can keep you can click on it and go from left to right.
I see now.
Those are just still images.
I see now.
But
okay, I see now.
The
all right, let's see this.
The what's it called? You can also just click on the image and I'll show you all the images on the Imgur link. But yeah, I see this I see the gameplay, I'm gonna be straight up, is not a huge issue to me. I played Dragon Age 1, the first one, when it came out, and I love it, and I still love it to this day. This idea of, oh my god, they ruined the Dragon Age gameplay, don't worry bro, I'm already there. That already happened to me with Dragon Age 2. They've already ruined it.
Oh, thank you.
They've already
I'm glad we're in
ruined it.
agreement in
They
that.
already ruined it
I will
once.
fight with my brother to this to my dying breath. Glad that we have common ground on this matter.
They already ruined it, and so when they changed it to a different style in Inquisition, that honestly I kind of liked because it was kind of a middle road between the two. It's whatever. Them going and switching the gameplay again to something else, it's just like, you know what? If this is like Dragon Age 2, it's whatever. I don't care. At this point, especially with Dragon Age, what I care about is the narrative. If the narrative is good, then sure, whatever. I don't really care too much. But what it's looking here, it does look kind of like Final Fantasy 15, where I'm noticing, like, yeah, the guy locks on to different enemies. I'm not going to post this because I might get in trouble, but well, if it's from this report, I don't think we're going to get in trouble for it.
We can post links to all the news articles we discussed in the description or something.
I'll post a link to those. But it's looking, yeah, he locks onto a character and then he strikes him with, different, and kind of attacks him with melee or things like that. And so
he gets up close and like kicks him. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and the thing is that honestly, I'm going to be real with you fellas. If it just feels good to play, then that's fine. If it's fun to play, that's fine. I am over the age. I am already the boat of we're going to get a great CRPG style Dragon Age game like the original. That boat's already sailed. It's gone. Bye-bye. See ya. And you know what? This boat is sinking too, so they're going to try everything to save it. So, don't worry about it. If you want to play that kind of game, one, just play Dragon Age Origins again. It's still playable. It's still great. Two, there's no shortage of CRPGs out there that are great to play. Go play Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. Go play Baldur's Gate 3, probably coming out this year. Coming out this August. play a bunch of other games. There's tons. If you are cracking for that sort of game, there's tons of other games for you to enjoy out there. Now, what people also want is they want this gameplay and they want like old school Bioware writing. That's really what they want. So there's that. But to, I guess, kind of go to a little bit of a side, looking at this as well, not a gameplay thing, but I guess a narrative thing, just looking at it, I don't know where the hell they are, but I can tell where they are. Not from visuals, but because it says on this sort of mission menu thing, or objective menu, it says Weishaupt. Get to the library. Weishaupt, for people that play Dragon Age and are big dorks like me, Weishaupt is the lair and the headquarters of the Grey Wardens. Which is like, it's in the mountains. And one of them starts with an A. The something mountains, like way up to the north, kind of by Tevinter. But this is it, and apparently this is what the Weishaupt Fortress looks like in this game. So, if it's in Weishaupt, then the rumors that it's going to be in Tevinter, which I think might have been confirmed, probably won't be that ridiculous. But this is one of those where in the section that I had it in our little chat thing, I said potentially trying to make us kill ourselves, because it is one of those where EA, I feel bad for Bioware in this case. They have made Bioware, they made a single player Dragon Age game starting in 2015. EA slaps them like some sort of like 50s Irish American wife. Just gives her an Irish kiss and slaps them down and tells them, hey, you're gonna put multiplayer stuff in this game now. You're gonna go make Destiny. Bioware goes, after being beat up for Anthem, crying, goes and makes a multiplayer Dragon Age game. 2019 rolls around. Guess what comes out? Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Single player games are back on the menu, baby. And on top of that, the complete utter failure of Anthem. EA comes back and says, hey, if you love me so much, you're gonna make this game single player again. And so they've made this game single player again. Now, however it turns out, I'm just happy for that they get to focus what little resources poor Bioware has left into making a single player game. And they also stated that the next Mass Effect is completely single player, and they're designing it from the ground up to be single player. So it's not going to be like this game where, yeah, they started off as single player, then became multiplayer, then became single player again. But now I know the EUI, as stated in this report, is something that is going to be changed, and that those are things usually left for last. Not necessarily sure how true that is. All the game projects I've worked on, it's kind of been all over the place, and they're also not really that big. But anyway, this to me, you take a look at the original Dragon Age game. You remember what the menus look like in that game, Andrew?
No, I do.
They look like a book. They look beautiful. They look wonderful. And then I see this menu, and it's just like, oh, is this Destiny?
Yeah.
Everything is so
clean,
square.
so streamlined. Destiny square.
Streamlined, square, hero. It says level something Grey Warden, which is neat. Which is probably one of those holdovers from when it was a Destiny ripoff.
Oh, absolutely.
So we'll see how it goes. But this is one of those where the jury is still out for lunch, or however that expression goes. I don't know, but I don't really, the jury's still out on this one. I am going into it with tempered expectations. I hope the game turns out fine, but this one's it's a little worrying. I'm a little
Looks
worried.
a little poopy.
I'm a little worried. But
And it's a shame because I feel like it almost has to be near perfect if they want to remain in EA's good graces, lest they get turned in for early retirement like every other company that EA has tampered with.
I'm going to put out a theory. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on. I'm going to say that Bioware has already reached the point where EA would have basically thrown them out. I think they haven't because they've already gotten so much bad press of them destroying studios already for this. That if they throw and they put under Bioware, you know, they take him out behind the barn or whatever and shoot him dead like a dog. I think people are going to be way more mad and upset because already with Visceral, when they did that to Visceral and it wasn't even their fault, like, they got a huge reaction out of that. They did that to Pandemic and that was a huge reaction. And we don't even talk about Westwood here without crying. But I think there's still a ways out, and I don't think EA is going to do that with Bioware just yet. Like, if this one fails, and if the next Mass Effect fails as well, then they might do it. But we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those where, like I said originally, I kind of don't care what the gameplay is. The narrative is what's going to catch me. And if the narrative is poopy, then... But we'll see.
That's where I'm sitting too.
We'll see how it goes. I do have extra footage I got recently from another leak for Dragon Age. I just gotta find it.
I'm interested how they're going to incorporate the choices from the previous games, because that's been getting more and more challenging,
messy.
I think, with every release.
And every game's a new protagonist, so I don't know.
Yep.
Now, for the audience out there, I apologize if I'm completely incorrect, but I've heard somewhere that this might be the first Dragon Age where we continue a character, or we're continuing the role of the Inquisitor from Inquisition.
Probably a safer bet.
Yeah, so... Oh, come on, where is this thing? I'm trying to find it.
Weishaupt Fortress. I wonder if they're going to still try and convince us that the Grey Warrens were somehow the villains and the Darkspawn were misunderstood.
Oh my. I hope not, because they're literal evil monsters spawned from bad.
Try telling that to Bioware.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're not afraid of making big evil monsters that are irredeemably evil. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I posted the alleged leak of the next Dragon Age that I think is quite incredible.
How are we gonna?
Or go ahead, Andrew.
How are we gonna illustrate to the audience what we're watching here?
How do I explain what I'm seeing right now?
I don't know. I might just lay it over, or I might just explain it.
That's fine.
Or maybe the audience will just... Maybe the audience will never know. And that's the glory of it. This is what's called being an insider, okay? Between me and the audience, us and the audience, if you will. When you're part of the game's media, like we are, and that's, you know, some might say that's a high title, a little bit of hoity-toity, but we're games media, and we got an inside look at this game.
That's
and
right.
what we have, well, it's incredible, so we'll hold on to it. But let me just say, this reminds me of Andrew or Mike. Do you guys ever remember the original teaser trailer for Dragon Age Origins?
No.
I do, yes.
This is the new shit trailer?
Like the cinematic one where they were climbing up the mountain?
No, for the original Dragon Age.
Yeah, Dragon Age Origins.
That is not the original teaser trailer.
What are you thinking of then?
Let me send it to you. Let me send it.
Now I'm scared.
It's incredible. It's incredible because it is a product of its age, and at the end of the day, it's not even compared to Dragon Age Origins, that's a bit darker and more grounded than the other games. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, I remember now. The one I'm thinking of was the cinematic trailer. This is... Okay, this is just a little bit. So there's another one that uses the same footage and same animation style where they're climbing up a mountain. It's supposed to be where they're looking for the ashes of Andraste.
Oh,
and it's
yes.
the Warden, Sten, Liliana, and Morrigan. I remember that trailer
that one,
because...
Yeah. No, this is the original teaser trailer
fantastic.
when they showed the game off for the first time. But wait till you get to the end.
Now I'm scared. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot because this was like the height of edgy metal fantasy.
What the?
Oh god, that is from a different bygone era altogether. That was an interesting trip down memory lane. Thank you for that.
You can't see, the audience can't see it, but I'm headbanging to this Marilyn Manson. There was an age long ago where your premier high fantasy RPG was advertised to Marilyn Manson. This is what the West used to be about. This is what the free world used to be about, and we have fallen so hard.
Video game conventions and sports was opened by Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, yes! This is another tangent. It reminds me, and we've all seen this video here in the Tom Cord. It's wonderful. It's from WrestleMania 19, I believe. And it's Undertaker coming out in a motorbike with a big American flag and a big patch. And in the ring is Limp Bizkit doing rolling.
Beautiful.
And it's like, this is what the United States used to be about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we've lost. This is what it must have felt like as a Roman seeing the Western Roman Empire fall. These leagues of barbarians coming after us that don't even like nu metal, okay? They're not like us. They don't get it. If you get your high fantasy and you don't like your Marilyn Manson, are we really even going to be friends?
These
right.
plebs don't even know who Fred Durst is. Come on.
Yeah, Fred Durst. But what's funny about this teaser trailer, too, I will link it down in the comments as well for everybody to enjoy, or in the description, is that even compared to Dragon Age 1 or Dragon Age Origins, it's so completely, like, not at all what it was, what the end product was like.
Oh god, no!
So it's incredible. I do remember this trailer because I saw it and I'm like, this is stupid. This is dumb. And then somebody told me, oh, hey, this is made by the guys who did Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I have to play it now. I remember. Oh, my goodness. Terrible, terrible stuff.
Gotta bring back the hyper machismo from back in the day.
Oh, my goodness. That stuff is great. Anyways, fellas, that is basically what I got for this third news topic, which is basically us either crying or maybe crying or just being a little bit worried, a little bit concerned about the next Dragon Age. Do you guys have anything more to add?
Jaded. This is our Jade Empire.
You're right to be worried.
You don't get to make that pun and get away with it. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think you're right to be worried.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. If you don't go in with any expectations and they do well,
that's true. You'll
then it's
never
not
be
too
disappointed.
bad. Then you never exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you don't expect anything from anybody, you won't be disappointed. If you don't look up to your heroes, don't look up to people, don't trust in anybody else. If you expect the worst, maybe, just maybe, life won't be so bad. Or maybe it will be. We'll see. Should we skip our final one and go just right to the end? Or should we talk about what we've been playing and watching? Or watching?
I didn't realize there was another topic. My list just says what we're playing and watching is next, and that's it.
Oh, that's what I mean. What we're playing or watching.
I could talk about like one thing, but it's really not that interesting. So I'm perfectly fine.
I'm gonna be short because the video is. This podcast is gonna be as long as it is anyway. So I'll be short. I'm gonna be short with mine. But
let's throw into it.
Anyways, okay, Andrew, what you been playing? Or watching?
So I've been playing a little bit of more of that Avadon that you sent me, and then I died. So I didn't realize that my last save was a couple hours back. So I've been trying to recover, and then I recently relapsed back into my, what would I call it, comfort game or something. It's just something that I occasionally feel the need to. Was that
Sims 4?
No, not this time actually. No, actually For Honor.
Oh, yeah, that is it. That is one of your comfort games.
Yeah, no, it's for me. It's probably what League of Legends is to a lot of people. It's not a good game, but it's there when I just have time to kill.
400 sounds pretty good.
That's it for me.
All right, Mike, what you been playing?
I've been playing Project Zomboid more or less, as well as I found a Metroidvania game that piqued my interest called Ghost Song. It's kind of like a mixture of I guess Hollow Knight.
You've been streaming that lately.
I have, yes. I actually just recently started streaming that. I am stuck on a current boss that is just kicking my ass, and I'm pretty sure it's because I keep going into that game intoxicated. So maybe if I just sobered up and tried playing the game once like that, I'd beat the game.
Yeah, come on, man.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't I drink? Yeah, Project Zomboid, also a very good game. Really, really nice little zombie apocalypse survival, top-down. Very in-depth, like your character loses heat depending on the ambient temperature and all that. Zombies react to sounds all around you. It's a very fun game. I've very much enjoyed it.
Interesting.
Yeah, what about you, Tom?
Me? As far as what I've been playing, I'm still playing through Hi-Fi Rush, and I'm enjoying that so much. The game is such a wonderful palate cleanser after Dead Space Remake. Dead Space Remake, like, yeah, that was a pretty good game, but okay.
Huh.
And then here comes Hi-Fi Rush, a new interesting idea, a new IP from a studio that I love. It's a charming game. It's a fun game. It's a game I play, and it's got gives me a big fat smile on my face. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit. But to go into watching, because we never mentioned what we're watching.
Oh, sorry.
I'm watching currently, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm watching Nicholas Winding Refn's latest little kind of mini-series, which is called Copenhagen Cowboy. So for the audience out there that is not familiar with Nicholas Winding Refn, he is a Danish filmmaker from Denmark, which is crazy. I know. But he's made such films such as Drive from 2011 that everyone here enjoys.
Oh, wow.
He's done other movies such as The Neon Demon, which I also really enjoy. He's done Only God Forgives, which is a film that's pretty divisive, that also has Ryan Gosling in it. And he also has done Bronson, which is my favorite Tom Hardy movie of all time. But he did a mini-series for Netflix as well a couple years back that's called Too Old to Die Young, that I watched all the way through, and it was like, wow, that was 18 hours of Nicholas Winding Refn, and I liked it. Not for everybody, that's for damn sure. And so now he's got a new one with Copenhagen Cowboy. And this is the first Danish language thing he's done since I think Pusher 3. And for the audience out there, if you like Mads Mikkelsen and you like Drive, you should watch the Pusher movies, because this is just young, bald Mads Mikkelsen gooning all over Copenhagen. But basically, the premise of the show is that there's a young, sort of enigmatic, renegade girl named Mew, who kind of like, she has psychic powers and kind of has like magic powers as well. And she brings that with her everywhere she goes, and she revisits Copenhagen with, at the start of the series, kind of an unknown motive. And then it's basically her navigating the criminal underworld of Copenhagen, encountering various adversaries, some supernatural, some not supernatural, and meeting some characters that she grows to care about. And then she eventually comes across a presence called Raquel, who basically has like very similar powers to her, and then the series just goes nuts. And so, if you've ever seen Nicholas Winding production, it is like full of wonderful lighting, lots of like neon purple lighting, bright red lighting, that sort of stuff. Think of like the Neon Demon or even Drive, that sort of stuff. So I've been really enjoying that. I am about halfway done. Each episode is about an hour each, so it's one of those where I'll watch it either before I go to bed or after I get home from work and when I eat something. But that's what I've been watching lately, and I've been enjoying that. And I guess small little... Also, I've been replaying a little bit of Faith again for something to come soon. Perhaps. Maybe. Who knows? But...
What could he mean by this?
Yeah, what could I mean by this? It's totally not that my next full scripted video is going to be Faith. But
couldn't be.
It couldn't be. But, yeah. Look forward to that sometime whenever. But in terms of this, I guess, program news, we're going to be back in probably maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Whenever it suits everybody and whenever I kind of want to do it. Because I've been doing a lot of editing lately. As far as Tom the Chosen One type stuff, go watch the first one of the TomCast. If you've made it this far in the second video, you've probably already heard the first one and enjoyed that, so kind of needless, I guess, to say. But the more importantly, go watch the first impressions video, which I have done on Dead Space. And soon to come out, probably after this video is done and released, will be the next impressions video, which is either going to be on Hi-Fi Rush or Atomic Heart. So, look forward to that, fellas. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we go?
I guess shameless plug, if you want to give me a follow, I stream sometimes at Beaver PI on Twitch and YouTube. Other than that, thanks for having me on. It's always good to be chatting about video games.
Oh, for sure. I love me my good old Mike, and so I'm going to have his stream down in the description where everybody can read it. And I did have the stream on in the Dead Space remake description as well. And so, who knows? Maybe we'll have more cross-play of sorts. Maybe there's room for Tom the Chosen One to show up on Beaver PI.
Oh, you're absolutely more than welcome to show up on my streams.
Yeah, and derail it and be awful. Awful.
I mean, it would be returning the favor. I've kind of been doing the same here, so.
Yeah, by showing up, waking up with a hangover. Tom sitting here, what are you talking about? It's 10 p.m. It's 10 p.m. Central European time in beautiful Italy. How could you be hangover still? Anyway, Andrew, you got anything else to end it with?
No shameless plug for me. Just thank you for having me on the show, and I can't wait to hear and see what we talk about next. Maybe it won't be as long as time.
Yeah, maybe it won't be as long. We'll find ways to cut it down. We're going to use an AI chat GPT bot, and we're just going to read it out.
There we go.
And we're going to write a original, invent for me, an original TomCast, a Tom the Chosen One supplementary podcast episode, where we talk about cheese, Warhammer 40,000, and Dragon Age Origins and Marilyn Manson. And then it'll make a 10-hour script, and we are going to be screwed out of luck. And then we'll
Absolutely.
just make a normal episode anyways after wasting all that time. But anyways, to the rest of the audience, I hope you all have a wonderful day or evening and a general great time. This is Tom the Chosen One, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.